Hello everyone and welcome to the River Stirland, which is somewhere in Stirland, which is just a terrible empire place, where there's going to be another big old battle, and we're going to watch what happened. So let's just get right into this one. It's a 2 versus 2. I'm playing as the Warriors of Chaos, my ally is playing as the Vampire Counts, and by the way, this is a rematch of the last battle that was shown. Because we were getting on very nicely, all of us people. And our enemies today is Norsca and the Greenskins. So basically the same enemies, but me and my ally had changed factions a little bit. But don't think it's just all changed yet, because the builds are different, sort of. Azhag's still in the battle, being himself, but yeah. So let's just get on with it. I'm going to put this one on normal speed this time around, because it actually took a while for this battle to get going. So let's just get this one over and done with. So, leading my army this time around, I have our Archaon the Ever-Chosen, who's currently in the back. I brought 3 units of Exalted Heroes, since their magic attack should basically cut through anything. And also, well, these are Exalted, these are actually the Aspiring. I don't think I brought an Exalted Hero this time around. Also, I brought some Great Weapon Chaos Warriors, 2 of which I brought. A Sorcerer of Shadows, some regular Chaos Warriors, 3 of which I had brought. And also some Chaos Spawn, and a Gore Beast Chariot. Big fella, this guy. Very, very devastating if used correctly. Meanwhile, the Vampire Counts, they'd brought plenty of Skeleton Spearmen, and leading their army was Manfred von Karstein, riding atop his flying thing, the undead unicorn thing of Satan. And then also in his back he's got some more skeleton spears, even more skeleton spears, as well as some grave guard, some of which are using the great weapons as well. 2 units of crypt horrors, and then actually 3 units of crypt horrors. Pretty big damage dealing anti-infantry army he had brought. Meanwhile over here, Norsca had brought a frost worm, big horrible freezing dragon, and basically, yeah, the way this battle goes, by the way, is the enemy was very quick to fortify this pass in the river, but we're going to talk about that very soon. Actually, let's put this one in slow motion, because we're about to just have our first few engagements between the vampires and Norsca. I take a while to get into this battle. So Norsca had brought plenty of great weapon marauders to hold the river pass. As you can see, he brought about 4 of them. Greenskins have a giant as well, just keeping an eye on things. 2 units of Norscan throwing axes and 2 units of marauder javelins. And then the berserkers, one of which were the brutes of a hound. Way at the back as well is a fire sorcerer, a marauder chieftain leading the army, no frog or wolfric this time around, and then 2 units of marauder spears just to watch for backs. Greenskins, meanwhile, they've brought a Goblin Doom Diver, they've brought Orc Arrow Boys this time around, but they've also brought a few Night Goblin Archers. I don't think they brought the Rusty Arrows this time around. Well, they didn't bring them last time. But they do have Durkit Squigs, which are a special unit of the Night Squig Hoppers. More big guns to deal with large units. So yeah, these guys this time will have a use for dealing with the Crypt Ghouls, but whether or not the enemy, well, my ally uses them, I won't say. And then 2 units of Black Orcs, this time of which they will be useful since I'm playing Warriors of Chaos. These guys can basically cut through my armour. But as you can see, the enemy was going to defend. They were going to take this river here, on the, well, you know, take the river Styr and hold it. The only other ways around are up these hills, which are very, very obvious, and one of which was actually being guarded by the frost worm. But my Vampire Count ally did have something hidden in the forest, which was he had a unit of Hex Wraiths just lying in wait. Ethereal and very good at hiding. It's just keeping them away and waiting. He also had some direwolves at the far back as well. Not as really good as the Hex Race, but still. He started to bring them around, get them ready to start hitting around at the enemy flank. He'd also brought another unit way over here as well, which was just hiding, which I can't see right now because I got lost on the map. I think he had another unit of Hex Wraiths hiding. Nope, just some direwolves actually. So, as you can see, the Frost Worm decided not to bother holding this mountain pass anymore. He just wanted to get right in with it and decided to use it to just take on Manfred von Karstein. So, they're both just having a big fight about it. Nothing really I can do to get involved. I don't really have anything that's going to attack flying units. I'd have to wait for them to come down. Over here, Skeleton Spearmen, they've made their line. They're getting ready to basically go for the big old charge. Goblins are chanting, letting off their little wires. I decided this time around I will open the hostilities though. Aspiring champions, they're just running forward, breaking out of the front line, you know, because these guys, while few in number, they're very hard hitters. These guys have brilliant morale, very high armour, and their magical attacks just give them that lovely little edge. Makes them great for taking out anything that's ethereal, and also just basically anything that's vulnerable to magic. So, they're all coming in, getting ready to do the initial charge. Decided to start off with these Great Weapon Marauders. Not exactly the best move in the world, since Great Weapon Marauders are anti-army units, but at the same time, well, they will break. They're only Marauders. I mean, yes, I know Norskins are fanatical. First few javelins are also flying into just trying to hit my guy. Oh, that was a groin shot, by the way. But as you can see, my aspiring champions just do not care. You can throw anything at them, even a fucking throwing axe, which did not go in his face. Usually when I play Mountain Blade Warband, all throwing axes are just magnetically attracted to my face. But he did get some friendly fire, actually. Yeah. That one did go in someone's face. Not exactly the best idea for the throwing axes then. He'd basically taken out 2 of his men. I'm not sure if they had died. No, well, the throwing axe actually, yeah. Basically, he set up his men and I knocked him down. So my lovely old aspiring champions, they've broken into the enemy line. Started to get things going. Archaon as well. He'd popped off his burning skull spell. But as per usual, this really brilliant but very annoying spell, the skull just decided to wander off in the wrong direction. Luckily, it decided not to kill all the skeleton spearmen there, but yeah. I just don't have any luck with that spell. But as you can see, yeah, Archaon's just nearby, waiting to do whatever he can in this one. Meanwhile, over here as well, my sorcerer, I'd also been running him forward, just getting him ready. I believe at this point, I was just going to cast a Pit of Shades quickly. Since there's, well, yeah, may as well cast it. A lot of enemies to kill, and the Pit of Shades just decided, well, we're just going to throw around all of these Marauder Hunters, keep them away from the enemy for a while. It's just going to start breaking them, and also the Shaman Sorcerer is just thinking, well, I just don't know what's going on there. It's just a big old hole that's opened up, and it's throwing around our men like the Act 1 boss for Hydrocity Zone in Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Not the one for Mania. But then again, Act 2 kind of had a remix, and the Act 1 boss was very interesting. So anyway, back to reality. So the Marauder Chieftain had decided to throw himself into the battle, trying to take on my guys. I'd cast a Cascading Fire Cloak just to keep on buffing up their damage. It gives them a little bit of armor piercing, which isn't really that much. We also give some fire damage, which should help us out a little bit more. And a few more Law of Shadow spells being popped off. The Withering was let out this time around, which was just lowering the armor of the enemy as well as their leadership. I was really going more for the leadership debuff around rather than the armor debuff, but hey, well, I know these guys don't wear a lot of armor, but it just makes them a little bit more open to being killed. And the Marauder Chieftain, I don't know why the Marauder Chieftain had thrown himself into this one. I think that was basically he wanted him to get killed or something. Great Weapon Chaos Warriors were now just punching through the line as well. Frostworm was here though, just trying to get in the way. But since he was on the floor, I could just basically let my Great Weapons just surround him. And they managed to take out quite a lot of his health actually, since it was a rear attack. It just cut into where he isn't going to be any use. Over here, Gorbeast Chariots were just looking for their entryway into the battlefield. Crypt Horrors had basically popped in and just began to work their way through the big guns. And yep, my Gorbeast had spotted their opening. I just ordered them on through. Yeah, it means I'm going to be bowling over a few skeleton warriors, but at the same time, I was just going to punch through a load of marauders, get this front line sizzled out, maybe hopefully push the enemy morale down. As you can see, the Gorbeast was just having a load of fun, just knocking through these guys like they were nothing. Because, well, also the Gorbeasts can just basically smack anything they want, because Gorbeasts are really, really tough. So, Chariot Charge was an okay one, not the best one in the world, but once more, it was just punching into this front line that the enemy had made to defend the Stura River, which is very dried up, isn't it? I'm casting more spells, as you can see. This time I went for the Flaming Sword of Ruin, which is just giving us a bit more extra damage, which is just keeping the well, not the exalted, but one day they shall be exalted. These aspiring champions is just keeping their damage topped up, making sure they could just keep up momentum and carry on punching through the main lines, which we are punching through at a relatively okay pace now. Can't seem to access tactical view for some reason, probably because I don't know how. But as you can see, the front line is beginning to falter. We are winning engagements. Azhag himself has now turned up as well, though. He's cast Spirit Leech to start leeching spirits off Manfred, and he's also casted this horrible Vortex spell here. It actually solves the mystery of who was casting vortex spells in the last battle, because I was wondering who was doing that, because I can't pay attention to anything. Meanwhile over here, dire wolves, they were crumbling, though they had managed to get into the flank. Don't think he'd moved in his hex wraiths just yet, they're still in wait. Gorby's chariot though had made it all the way to the rear lines and was now just working its way through the night goblin archers. Managed to break the little buggers up quite quickly. Good, 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 good. Over here, I've broken through the front line now. Chaos Warriors are taken over for the Exalted, or the Aspirants. And they're just basically punching through these Marauder Spears. Marauder Spears should not be an issue for us. They're just losing decisively. They're gonna lose their morale relatively quickly, and I'm just gonna be through that one. Archaon now moving in, casting more shadow spells by the way whenever I can. But my guys, my legendary lords were now just moving in, just getting ready just to help out. As you can see, casting off another spell, just let a fireball go right across my men, cut a few of them up, I know, but went right into the middle of this green skin and Norscan contingent there. So I thought, yeah, it's helpful still. Azhag himself had basically was a little worse for wear now. I think he tried to take on Manfred as well, so he's just retreating him back a little bit. Over here, another big old spell just getting ready to be cast. Enemy is just breaking up for vampire count units are just breaking in. And yeah, I'd also once more cast another flaming sword of ruin on my guys. I think I cast it on I cast it on some aspiring champions. I think I was also casting it on my allies. Let the Graveguard have a little bit of a boost as well, just so we could all keep punching through these Norscans, who were all now falling at a relatively rapid pace. Marauder Chieftain wasn't really losing a lot of health though, even though this guy just kept throwing himself into engagements he couldn't win, even if right now he is winning a little bit, but that's only because he has a Hellfire sword. He did have some survivability, and he was beginning to push these aspiring champions down, but as you can see, someone decided to cast the Flaming Sword of Ruin on the Marauders this time around, since there is the Shaman of Fire. So Archaon was having to compete in terms of things, and also this guy basically thrown around and cast Frostbite everywhere, which is great for slowing everything down and making my men more vulnerable to being killed. Manfred, though, even though he was on his last legs, was not having any of that. Went in to attack the Frostworm, trying to do what he could, but Azhag's turned up to get in the way, and I think at that point Manfred actually died, because I can't see his banner anymore, so we will assume Manfred died. He bit the bullet. But over here, the Hex Wraiths were now making their move. This flank was open since the Frostworm was occupied again. So Hex Wraiths are just going to start making their way around, swing round, and they're just going to deliver the final blow. Chaos Warriors, they're moving in, pushing back the Norscan line. As you can see, we've now gained quite a bit of ground on the enemy. Enough for me to now basically make my own defensive line here of Chaos Warriors, who had either retreated and come back or hadn't even seen combat yet. So I basically now just had my own line ready. If the enemy was going to try and push, we could just push back again. Also, it's just good to have reserves. Archaon himself now, he'd gone to deal with that Shaman Sorcerer because I was getting sick of his presence. He kept buffing up the Norscans and just keeping me in the battle for longer, so I thought, right, just get rid of him. Archaon can pretty much take on anything he wants anyway. He's a very tough legendary lord. But the Frostworm was going to try and see different to that, and as you can see, he landed, but he was a little bit lost. Enemy decided to cast another Flaming Sword of Ruin to give himself a better chance of surviving against Archaon, but yeah, the enemy was already from very low morale. Marauder Chieftain coming in to try and take him on. Archaon did actually fall over, but we're not allowed to say that because it's kind of embarrassing to admit. Yeah. The enemy was throwing everything they had at Archaon, but Archaon just didn't care. He may have only lost a quarter health from all of this. He was just going to keep on popping at it. That Frostworm was only a few hits away from being dead. I had my great weapon Chaos Warrior staring him down. Probably should have been bringing him in to reinforce Archaon actually at this point, because Archaon was not going to survive long. I mean, these skeleton warriors were capable of holding this line for now. And that's exactly what I did. I thought, right, going to have to give Archaon some help because Norsca's just going to keep throwing everything they have at Archaon to try and kill him. So we came in and helped. But my ally had the same idea at the same time. Brought in a big old charge of Hex Wraiths just to finish the job now. These guys could just get in there, take very little damage, and just help my guys out. Kill off these characters, see that they're all gone. Then we can start working on what was left of the greenskins, because at this point Norsca was out. And what was actually left of the Norscan leadership now was in full retreat. That Hex Wraith charge really just buggered them up. Meanwhile, elsewhere, we were just working on the greenskins now. Giant was still in the game, quite a few big guns were still in the game because, well, they were having a good time taking out the crypt horrors. And Azhag himself had not quite died yet, but since this time around Azhag had been a little bit more proactive, getting into a little bit more engagements, his health was actually very, very low. So I think at this point Azhag was going to keep out. Giant, having a load of fun about this, managed to pick up one of my guys, unfortunately, and he ate a Chaos Warrior, so yeah, I have a feeling the Dark Gods were not going to be rewarding him, but, well, Giants sometimes do that. Luckily, the Giant had not decided to vomit everywhere for once. Oh, he did, actually. Yep, did his big old weird blue vomit all over the Chaos Warriors. Luckily, that doesn't seem to have too much of an effect on them. Needed to be getting my halberds in there, though, or anything that was anti-large to deal with that Giant, because right now, his health was still very high, still very tanky. He may be exhausted, though, but his morale was also remaining very high, so needed to do something just to get rid of that guy. Blackhawks as well were working their way through the Skeleton Warriors. That was okay because the Skeleton Warriors should beat the Blackhawks actually, because once more Blackhawks are armor piercing, so they deal a little bit less damage to targets that are not armored. And since Skeleton Warriors only wear basically a very paltry amount of armor, they were gonna just do okay for once. Not brilliant, but okay. Graveguard, however, we're probably going to lose to these guys unless they're the great weapon ones, but since he's a regular Graveguard, their chances are really moderate to slim. And also Azhag himself was trying to do what he could to prevent my reinforcements from arriving, casting a few shadow spells to suck up whatever was left of my aspiring champions, since we'd been going around bullying some other Blackhawks which had gotten a little bit lost. As you can see, this guy was just trying to work out what he could do. I think he was hoping he'd be the next Grimgor Ironhide, but instead, well, he's going to be a dead orc. My guys, I decided to let them break off a pursuit though. I know while leaving this unit alive probably isn't really the best idea because they might come back. There was more important things to be dealing with, which was mainly just basically taking out whatever was left of the greenskins, taking out the surviving units of big guns and Blackhawks. Also, the brutes of the hounds had managed to find their way back into the battle. I don't think these guys had routed anyway. They just wandered off basically. But they were basically what was left of Norsca at this point. I don't think anything else was hanging around trying to do anything. My Shadow Sorcerer had gotten involved in the battle at this point as well, though really there wasn't really a lot he could do because, well, being a Shadow Sorcerer, yeah, while his attack's okay, I think at this point as well, my Winds of Magic had just gone to pot. And also, everything had also gone to pot for the greenskins. As you can see, the big guns were now in full retreat. Hex Wraiths had just been killing them off. Since Hex Wraiths can just absorb so much damage, they can also deal so much damage. These guys are really powerful alongside the Cairn Wraiths. Basically, anything that's a Wraith is bad. I mean, if I brought my aspiring champions, though, I think they'd beat the Hex Wraiths and the Cairn Wraiths, because once more, ethereal units are weak to magic. So over here, Giant is now just having everything thrown at him. He is a big target to hit. So we're just doing what we could. I had some more units as well which had come into battle. I don't think I noticed these guys though, so yeah, a little bit of bad micromanagement because these javelins were now just going to stand around and wail on them. But even doing that, I think these guys were a little bit scared of the general presence of my Chaos Warriors because their morale was just going down. I think they were just taunting out of fear, basically going, yeah, please don't notice us. Because if I had noticed him, then, well, yeah, these guys are going to die. Yeah, they're saying, is that all you've got? Yeah, all I'm doing is just basically facing my backs to them. Meanwhile, over here, Azhag was just desperately looking to find something to kill, but victory was now in our grasp. Blackhawks are about to go down, their morale is gone. The Giant had finally got to the point where he'd run out of health. He was only a few hits away from being killed, for he'd taken out a lot of my men at the same time. He'd wiped out my Chaos Spawn, which hadn't really done a lot in this battle anyway. A lot of the Skeleton Warriors were now beginning to crumble and just disintegrate because the Giant was just sort of sapping morale since psychological reasons, since Giants cause terror. But then all of a sudden Giant decided he'd had enough and he just went. It was basically at the end of his life, end of his health, no point in keeping him around, so fair enough. All that was left then were just the brutes of a hound. They were still pretty confident though because their morale just so rarely goes down. They're very, very tough units, practically unbreakable. But Archaon decided to put that to the test, see if they were any good for his army. And as you can see, casting another quick old fire spell there just to give whatever was left of my exalted heroes, or, well, why do I confuse everything? But he gave my Chaos Warriors just a quick boost with the cascading fire cloak just for an extra little bit of damage. One of the brutes of the hound did wipe this guy out though, so yeah, he was pretty unworthy. But Archaon decided to just punish him by basically cut him in two there. I know the animation did show him being cut in two, but let's face it, if you have a very, very gory and sick mind, you can imagine that's what Archaon had just done. He basically cut that guy in two. You know it, I know it. Don't mess with Archaon, because it is a good end well. Oh, and by the way, my Gore Beasts had died. They'd come in for one big glorious charge in the back alongside the Hex Wraiths, but hadn't worked out for them in the end. And at the end of the day, that was how we won. It was a Pyrrhic victory, but probably one of the most fun battles again I'd ever fought, because this was a really cool map actually, the Styr River. It was just fun to see the enemy just try to defend this little river pass, but we'd managed to use a little bit of maneuverability and some flanking power. Well, alright. When I say we, my ally had been very smart with those Hex Wraiths, and I think it was that Hex Wraith charge against the Lord, against the Sorcerer and that, which really broke it for Norsca. Greenskins had a good performance this time around, but at the same time I think they could have done a little bit better. My performance I think was good overall. I managed to have a lot of my men survive. I managed to push the enemy. I managed to keep reserves. I managed to basically make my own lines. I did okay. Not brilliant, but I did okay. But I had lost exactly half my army as well, which I guess is okay for Chaos. I mean, okay, what's more, losses for Chaos are bad, but at the same time, only 50%. I probably should have lost less, but yeah. However, yeah, my Vampire Count ally got absolutely wiped by the Greenskins, so for him, it was a highly Pyrrhic victory. But with great losses, he was outputting great damage. Hex Wraiths and Direwolves in particular, they've got loads of kills. The Graveguard with great weapons, or these were the regular Graveguards. They did a high amount of damage. Great weapon Graveguard did very well. Skeleton Spears and Skeleton Warriors, some taking home a moderate amount of kills. Manfred himself didn't do a lot, but then again, Manfred was basically keeping the enemy legendary Lords and Frostworm away, so he was serving a good purpose. Basically, the Vampire Counts were just good for holding and pushing. It was basically my Chaos Warriors getting around the back and doing all of that stuff. I mean, especially the Great Weapon Chaos Warriors, they're taking home over 100 kills apiece. My Gore Beast Chariot, 119. It was just those units getting around the back, and also Archaon frequently popping boost spells and offensive spells were just what helped us win this one this time around. Norsca, their performance was pretty good. I thought they held out for quite a good time actually. But I managed to bring them into a flank. I think they were a little bit too eager to use his chieftain nerd. Kept bringing him forward a little bit early, which I think was costing him lives. And also at the same time, the Greenskins, yep, strong performance. Azhag himself actually had quite a weak round this time around. But, I mean, it was a bit odd. I mean, this guy actually hadn't changed his build from the last one, apart from adding a few Orc Araboys instead of the Broken Tusks. I think if the enemy had brought some cavalry, I mean, alright, I know Norsca doesn't do cavalry, but I'm thinking if the Greenskins had brought a few Boar Boys, I think he might have actually won. Like, maybe some Savage Orc Boar Boys right in the back of our army would have paid off very well. So, I think the reason why we had victory was because, well, the Vampire Count ally, he just took advantage of the flanks, and since he managed to do that, that's how he won. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you all for the next battle.